Is there a state or federal forum that a state citizen can seek a remedy at law when harmed by an office holder of the U.S. court? For lack of real world example, take the hypothetical where law enforcement conducts an armed raid on a land and a home of a state citizen. How would they gain jurisdiction? Is there a court that would recognize the state citizen and enforce their rights and issue a remedy? If so, is it a federal court or state court? Okay, so your remedy is in equity. Your remedy is private. Your remedy is not public. And this is something that we've been kind of misled on for a long period of time. When you're dealing with the elements of court procedures, charge instruments, that doesn't apply to you. It applies to a U.S. citizen, somebody who is in fact holding that office of the person, somebody who they can gain jurisdiction over. So I got to ask people, how are they going to gain jurisdiction over if you're dealing with all the elements of a charge instrument that go after the in personam or subject matter jurisdiction to gain a charge instrument? So if you read a charge instrument, it's the same basic principles in all charge instruments. First and foremost, why do you have, if a federal government, just hear me out, if a federal government had autonomy over every single person in the country, when they only have exclusive jurisdiction in DC, if they had automatic autonomy and jurisdiction over everybody, they wouldn't have to prove subject matter jurisdiction on the first 2 pages or go to a FISA court to get a FISA warrant, which was just handed over. But when in reference to a state citizen, they have to prove that there is subject matter jurisdiction. And when you take a look at that, the living in the private program handles that. So that's why I asked the very first question is, how are they going to gain jurisdiction? Is it over the house? Is it over you? Is it over your possessions? How? Show me a warrant where they will be able to gain access to you or your home going through the living in the private. Now, to answer your question, it's to equity, and it's an extended answer, but it's private, it's not public, and you're going to be dealing with the private side of the court with the judge directly, some of it through registered mail, some of it through special appearance, but all through your Fourth Amendment right. You have a right to face your accuser. You have a right to a grand jury. You have a right to, think about these things. Those courts don't belong for you. And that was kind of a trick question, whether you meant it or not. That's not for you. In Article 6 court in California, it's kind of funny when you read the California Constitution, which doesn't apply to a U.S. citizen. There's protections within the Constitution for a state citizen where you cannot have a bar-carded attorney presiding over the court, which is the judge. And so you can take the judge out right up front in every case using the California Constitution, and people don't know about these things. But there is public side remedy for U.S. citizens, and we have helped a lot of people beat them at their own game easily, and not easily, but where there is remedy. But I think you're asking for, what court do I walk into and get this thing dismissed? And there is nothing like that. It's knowledge, it's training, it's understanding rules and procedure. If you're in their world and you've gotten that charge instrument because you're not living in the private, then you got to play that world game. And we have beat them, and we have created case sites that were empirical, that they have stripped out of the system where you can't find them, because we stripped 4 judges off the bench. We had 32 witnesses. We called them out all the way across through their case. Liar, 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 wrote affidavits, put it in the case. No, he never waived. He never signed a Feretta waiver. He never waived his right to a speedy trial. It's day 63. We're going to punk you on this because that's 3 days past your own rules that you must dismiss. So you can play both ways. You don't need to play one way, but I'm just saying, as a state citizen, you would never get an indictment. They could never prove subject matter jurisdiction.